Good morning, everyone. Last week, we examined the birth of Jesus because we know as we prepare to observe his memorial, Jesus commanded us to remember him, or remembering him, remembering all of him. So last week, we looked at his birth and talked about a few things there, how he was born, how Joseph found out about it, the things that were done at that time. This time, I'd like to look at the events leading up to the establishment of the event that we call the Lord's Supper. And to do that, we're going to look in Mark 14, beginning in verse 1, and it'll be kind of an extensive reading, so bear with me. And it's coming from the New English translation. We'll begin at Mark 14, verse 1. 2 days before the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the chief priests and the experts in the law were trying to find a way to arrest Jesus by stealth and to kill him. For they said, not during the feast, so there won't be a riot among the people. So they didn't want to do it during the feast, but they wanted to do it around that time. Now, while Jesus was in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, reclining at the table, a woman with an alabaster jar of costly aromatic oil from pure nard. After breaking open the jar, she poured it on his head. But some who were present indignantly said to one another, "Why waste this expensive ointment? It could have been sold for more than 300 silver coins and the money given to the poor." So they spoke angrily to her. But Jesus said, "Leave her alone. Why are you bothering her? She has done a good service for me. For you will always have the poor with you. You can do good for them whenever you want. But you will not always have me. She did what she could. She anointed my body beforehand for burial. I tell you the truth, wherever the gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." Then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went to the chief priests to betray Jesus into their hands. When they heard this, they were delighted and promised to give him money. So Judas began looking for an opportunity to betray him. Then on the first day of the Feast of the Unleavened Bread, when the Passover lamb is sacrificed, Jesus' disciples said to him, "Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover?" He sent 2 of the disciples and told them, "Go into the city, and a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him. Wherever he enters, tell the owner of the house, the teacher says, 'Where is my guest room that I may eat my Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a large upstairs room, furnished and ready. Make preparations for us there." So the disciples left and went into the city, and they found things just as he, Jesus, had told them, and they prepared the Passover. When it was evening, he came to the house with the 12. While they were at the table eating, Jesus said, "I tell you the truth, one of you eating with me will betray me." They were distressed, and one by one said to him, "Surely not I." He said to them, "It is one of the 12, one who dips his hand with me into the bowl. For the Son of Man will go as it is written about him. But woe to that man to whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would be better for him if he were not born." While they were eating, he took the bread, and after giving thanks, he broke it and gave it to them and said, "Take, eat. This is my body." And after taking the cup and giving thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank from it. He said to them, "This is my blood, the body of the covenant that is poured out for many. I tell you the truth, I will no longer drink of the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new in the kingdom of God." After singing a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Now, Jesus tells us that, John tells us that Jesus hands Judas a piece of bread at supper and tells him, "What you're about to do quickly." That's not told here in Mark. That was Judas's prompt to go to the chief priest to betray Jesus. Jesus has spent 33 years on this earth doing the will of the Father, spreading the good news of the kingdom of heaven, and it all comes to head on this night. Now, Jesus would have been old enough to have seen the results of what the Romans did when the Romans got irritated. For example, in the region where he grew up, there was a rebellion right about the time he was born, and dozens of people were crucified. And not only crucified, but they were left beside the road crucified. And they were left there until there wasn't anything left. So they didn't even bother to take them down. The Romans could be an extremely brutal people when they wanted to make a point. So Jesus was more than likely old enough at that time to have seen some of this stuff, and I'm sure it would have made an impression upon him. But here he is. He's preached for 33 years. He knows what's coming. He's already seen it. And he's going to be tortured this night. He's going to be crucified the next day. And he knows that. I can't even wrap my head around how much that had of, as a man, which he was a man. It was God in man. I can't even wrap my head around how much that must have really bothered him. But he did it. And he was crucified. And he was raised on the third day, just as he prophesied. And by the way, the apostles didn't get it, what that meant about being raised until after the fact. Here we are on this morning. We're following the last command of Jesus to remember him and to remember what he's done for us. We have the fruit of the vine over here, and we have the bread. The bread represents the body that Jesus gave when he hung himself on that cross. And he actually did do that. I mean, he knew it was coming. He willingly went there and he let them do that to him. The body took all of the torture, all of the beating, all of the punishment, if you will, for the crimes, the sins that man had done against God. So that bread represents that body, that precious body that took those beatings. The fruit of the vine represents the blood that was poured out to seal the covenant with us, that we'll never have to die again. It paid the price for all of those sins that were punished and took them away forever. Now, folks, I'm not trying to tell you we're not going to die, because we all will. But we'll never die after that. And we'll be with him forever. And we need to remember him this morning. We don't do this because it's a ritual. I mean, I guess you could consider it to be a ritual. But for all of us as Christians, I hope and I pray that it is much, much, much more than that to each of us. It's a remembrance of how special that event was that God did with his only son.